Hey, welcome to another episode of Patriot Paul. You're in for a treat today as the Newaygo County Republican Party hosted a debate for the 33rd District Michigan State Senate race where all four candidates showed up and answered questions. You have State Representatives Joseph Fox and Gina Johnson, Kent County Commissioner Katie DeBoer, and Army veteran Tom Norton, as they all give their answers and thoughts on several different topics. And thank you for watching, and hit that like and subscribe button, and please share this video so that other voters can be informed when they go to the polls in August.
For the Michael term. Thank you. Thank you all for participating. Let's hope the participation can end about now. Thank you to the candidates who have paid for this room and this opportunity so this could be a free admission event. We do appreciate that. Thank you for the committee that put this together for us. We appreciate them and the folks here at the Dogwood Center. So why are we here? We are here to listen to a debate between four candidates that are currently running for the Michigan State Senate. We may be here just to listen. We may be here to support a friend or a family member, and that is great. That's part of our civic life. We appreciate that. But the most important thing for us to do is to listen. There will be no open mic. There's no questions from the audience. Thank you very much. I hope you came prepared. You ask the folks outside. This is not a place for that. We would like everybody to be courteous. We would like you to hold your applause for two different places in our program today. One, we will have the candidates introduce themselves, and of course we want you to applaud vigorously for those that you support. And at the close of this event, when they make their closing comments. Other than that, we would appreciate it if you would hold yourself and your enthusiasm to listening as opposed to acting. Here's the basic outline. We're going to have 2 minutes for each candidate to introduce themselves to you, and then we'll start asking questions. Candidates have, what did we agree on? They have 1 minute to answer the questions, and they have 30 seconds. Everybody has 30 seconds for rebuttal. Or they may just answer the question the way they would like to answer it. Or they may decide to answer a different question that was asked before. So it's up to the candidates. We are getting to that, Mr. Johnson. We have timekeepers, Steve Johnson, Michelle Glaister. They will be providing us with a 30-second or a 10-second flag, and that is a yellow card. And they will be providing us all with a red flag, and that is, we got to stop. If candidates decide to avoid the red flag and charge on past because they think they're going to get away with it, that's not going to happen. We're going to first start, I'll signal to Charlie and he'll cut their mic. And then if they choose to go past that because they've got a great 40-acre voice, then they'll skip the next question. We'll just leave them out of the order of things. Sooner or later, we all get it. At this point, I would like to take an opportunity to have our moderators, who are working in 4 different areas of our lives. And I would like to ask our moderators to introduce themselves, and then I'll wrap up the introduction myself, and then we'll move right along. So if I could ask.
Hello everyone, I'm Lori Tuberman Clark. I'm currently a county commissioner for District 5 in Newaygo County, retired school superintendent, former school administrator, and teacher. Happy to be here.
Good afternoon. Brian Call. I am also a county commissioner. I am out of District Number 2, and I am currently the board chair. I'm a retiree from having worked for 32 years for the county, 37 years in law enforcement total, and I'm here about the local government questions. Thank you.
I'm Bill Johnson, and I'm a former public school teacher for 18 years and the head of American Family Association of Michigan for a number of years, and for the last number of years with the American Decency Association. I'm old now. I used to say that I'm getting old, but I'm an old man. I like to say that just because it's different, I guess you could say. It's good being old, and I see that there's many people here that are much younger than what I am. So we have quite an array of ages, and I'm just thankful to be here and have this opportunity. Thank you.
Bill's area of interest for us will be culture and how government reacts with culture. John Llewellyn, chairman of the Newaygo County GOP. We will be talking to the candidates about jobs, the economy, and affordability. We'll wrap up with that. That will be the last. And so at this time, we would like the candidates to introduce themselves. We'll go in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Ms. DeBoer.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie DeBoer. I am an imperfect person saved by the redeeming work of Jesus Christ, and I try to honor him in all that I do. I believe as a Christian I am to redeem what is broken, and there is certainly a lot of brokenness in government, and that is why I am running. I come with a lot of experience. I've built successful businesses with my husband. We have been an employer as well. I've understood all of the payroll and all of the taxes and all of the administration of small business. I'm also a homeschool mom, so I have 3 wonderful children and pulled them from the public schools in 2021, founded a homeschool group, and currently am an executive director of that nonprofit. It has a mission to support homeschooling in West Michigan, and I'm excited to be able to do that. We've had over 100 kids in our programs, and I've been able to help parents with that resource. I'm also taught government at Cornerstone University. I have been able to implement a lot of good values to some of our young students and being involved in helping them understand government and some of our core foundational values. I come before you and I am excited to serve my community. That's why I'm running. I bring a lot of experience in local government. So I previously was a Cannon Township trustee, and now I'm currently a Kent County Commissioner. And I have done a great job helping serve and restoring conservative values to our commission there. I helped remove vaccine mandates for Kent County for our health department. I've also restored a lot of better funding, directed funds to public safety instead of a lot of other pet projects in our health department. So that's a little bit about me, and I think that's my time.
Are we on? So thanks, first of all, to the GOP for having this debate. Thanks to the Black Box and Dogwood, and thank you all for coming here. And I just want to proclaim very clearly that even when I'm old and gray, do not forsake me, O God, till I declare your power to the next generation. It's all about the next generation. Your might to all who are to come. I'm Joseph Fox, and I'm fighting for faith, family, and freedom. When you think of Fox, think of the letter F. With faith, I've been a Jesus follower for over 60 years, and been a pastor, missionary. My values grid is the Word of God, prayer, listening well, and looking at the circumstances before I make decisions. In relation to family, I've been married over 40 years. I have 4 children, 14 grandchildren. Johannes Samuel was just born about 2 weeks ago. And I serve on the Families and Veterans Committee, where I can keep my eye on what's going on with families in our state. I've also sponsored legislation on the fetal alcohol syndrome, which is something that is challenging our people in our state these days. And in relation to that too, I serve on the Education and Workforce Committee, and this last year put through what is known as the Student Restroom Privacy Act. Boys and boys, girls and girls. And finally, in relation to freedom, I'm fighting the good fight. I put forth constitutional carry bills, Second Amendment rights, and I am a patriot, fighting for the next generation, fighting for faith, family, and freedom.
I'm Gina Johnson. I'm in my 4th year as state representative for the 78th district. That's parts of Eaton, Kent, Ionia, and Berry counties. And I first want to just say thank you for this event, but also thank you to the first responders who aren't here with us. I appreciate you all being here, but we all know to keep praying for the current flooding situation in our state. It's at a devastating level, and we really appreciate their hard work. If we can pick up a meal or something to just tell them thank you in a restaurant, and we'd appreciate them. We all want to keep the good culture going. With that, I'm running for the state senate with the endorsement of our good current state senator Rick Outman, also Senator Bumstead, and former state representative Van Single. With their encouragement, I decided to run to represent you well. The Senate is only 38, the House is 110. You get about 3 times the amount of work, and you better be ready to roll up your sleeves and even work harder than we already are. My background is in healthcare business. I've worked for large corporations, and I currently own my own small business in healthcare business. I run 3 nonprofits. I'm not just pro-life. I've been coaching pregnant women for over 30 years, and I currently am the executive director of a pregnancy center. I also am in the 16th year of running Michigan Pray. That's our Christian prayer house across the street from our Lansing Capitol, so we can engage more Christians in voting and voting biblically. I've returned tax dollars to our district, and I will continue to work hard for you. I appreciate your vote on August 4th. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a quick point before I start. We did not do a prayer before we started the debate or the Pledge of Allegiance. Could we do that real quick?
Yeah.
Amen. We'll do that. Sorry, Charlie. We'll do that after the debate. I'm sorry, after the introductions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was just a point that I sat there and saw.
Anyway, thanks a lot.
Anyway, my name is Tom Norton. I'm 11 Bravo, Afghanistan infantry, served in Kandahar. Story that I haven't shared too much, and a couple people around me asked me to share it. I helped capture the number 2 in Al-Qaeda in 2012. So that's something I don't share too much. I helped found the West Michigan Veterans Ranch, which is located right here in Newaygo County, which was for spiritual healing for veterans that came back with PTSD, doing suicide prevention that I actually helped do for quite a few years. Quite frankly, I'll be honest, I quit doing it when I got a DUI. I went and helped a veteran that drank too, and he wasn't going to do anything, he had a drink with him, and I drank too much. But I didn't stop serving my community on it. Instead, I went and got help myself for PTSD. And after that, I was also a village president in Sand Lake. I served 2 terms there where we rebuilt the sidewalks, roads, and secured grant money. And this community needs a lot of grant money brought back into it. I think we can all agree with that. On top of that, anybody ever hear of Second Amendment sanctuary counties? Pretty sure you have. Myself, Jeff Foss, and a guy named Randy Bishop founded that. We did 48 counties as Second Amendment sanctuary counties, and this is one of them. And that's a hats off to you folks as well. I can sit there and talk to you about activism and give you lip service, but I've done it. When Governor Snyder came after charitable gaming for our churches, our homeschool groups, suicide prevention, VFWs, American Legions, all of them, I helped organize town halls in Grand Rapids, Waterville, and the UP. And we overrode him so the casinos didn't take away charitable gaming from our communities. And that's how a lot of poor kids are funded school books. On top of that, I also organized American Legions in order to have recorded interviews for CPS, which is a huge government overreach. I have 3 beautiful kids. My mom's here. My family goes back 5 generations in this community. You will not find anybody else from Hesperia to Ionia that has those type of roots. And I'm asking your vote not just because I want to win. It's so that we can actually build it together.
Let's have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this opportunity here. Now as we gather, thank you already for these introductions. Lord, we now ask that you would be here with us, Lord, in all we do, in all the questions and answers. Be with all those in their seats as well. Lord, open our hearts, our minds, and our spirits to you. The need for your will to be done in our community, in these communities, in the state, in this country, and throughout the world. Father, may your word go forth, and may we be instruments of bringing glory and honor to your name in all we do here today. Thank you for this opportunity. We pray for blessing upon each individual and each of these candidates, and we pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn.
We'll start off with 15 minutes from Ms. Cooper.
Hello, candidates. We're going to start with our education bank of questions, and candidate DeVore, you will get 1 minute for the first question, and then there'll be 30 seconds for each of the other 3 candidates to add to it or respond or however they want to address it. So our first question is going to be around purpose of education, your philosophy, and the different pathways we have for education in Michigan. The question is, what do you believe is the fundamental purpose of K-12 education in Michigan, and how should public, private, and homeschool pathways that operate under different rules each contribute to that purpose?
Thank you for the question. I believe the fundamental purpose of education is to train up a child in the way that they should go. That is a parent's responsibility. So primary responsibility rests on the parent, not a school district and not a government entity. So there are many pathways, and we need to continue to look into different opportunities. So we can enact education savings accounts to help our students, to help our parents to decide what pathway is the best. 529 plans, I lobbied in Washington, D.C. last year, and I included those with homeschooling. So that's federal level right now. It's state administered for Michigan, so we need to change that legislatively. There's also scholarship grant opportunities where we can do tax-free scholarships to start enabling parents to use that as well. There's also parental protection. We need to do like a parental bill of rights for those who are utilizing the public schools.
And it's 30 seconds again? Okay. I stand in agreement with Mrs. DeBoer, and we very much have to lean upon our parents as the primary educators. No question about that. One thing that would help us tremendously legislatively is if we could do away with the Blaine Amendment from our Michigan Constitution, which would provide openness for waivers and other financing for non-public school students.
The purpose of school is to partner with the parents and help our children learn academics. It's not to do political agendas. It's not to help them try to determine what gender they are. It is to stick to the core curriculum and stick to the academics. If we would just focus on that and get a lot of the Democrats out of the way, the Republicans agree on this. Actually, 86% of the population agrees on this. We would see the academic scores rise.
I want to put the Constitution of the United States back in every single classroom so our kids can actually read it. The other thing I'd like to do is 100% school choice, period. I don't care if it's a parochial school, I don't care with your kid, where they go. Your tax dollars, your children are worth the same amount. You have a right to educate your children. I need the government to get reduced, remove the tax incentives, and just give you the ability to have the choice to educate your children.
The next question moves into the state's role. So more from purpose that you just talked about and into policy. Given your view of the purpose of K-12 education and the distinct roles of public, private, and homeschool pathways, what is the state's role in supporting that purpose, and what specific legislative actions would you pursue to advance equity and quality across all three systems? Candidate Fox, you're first.
Sorry, I was thinking you were going there first. So, focusing on policy is what I hear you saying. We need to, number one, look from the local situation to the state situation and not vice versa. Right now we have an upside down situation with our policy and how we treat things. Secondly, I wrestle every time I hear the word equity. I think we need to get clear what we mean when we talk about equity and to avoid totally diversity, equity, inclusion in our ways of thinking when it comes to policy. And I've supported that idea very much in our state and will continue to support that.
We definitely need to have school choice. We almost lost homeschooling, and the Christian schools are right behind it with the Democrat majority across the board. I implemented or introduced two pieces of legislation: smaller classrooms for K through 6, even got the Michigan Department Head to agree to it, and better truancy policies. If kids are not in school, they're not learning. If they're not in school because they're homeschooled or Christian school, that's just fine. But if they're in a public school and not showing up 40, 50 days a year, we got a problem. Thank you.
Michigan has one of the absolute best homeschooling programs in the country, and the Democrats keep going after it. We need to leave that alone, number one. Number two, we need to make sure that as long as we hold one of the houses in government, be it the House or the state Senate, we can fight the Democratic Party with the budget. We don't have to surrender to them. To have an excuse that the Democrats hold one of the chambers in the governorship is weak. We have the ability to stand strong, but we need leadership to do it for you.
So policy-wise, the Blaine Amendment has had recent court cases, and the floodgates are open wide. And other states that have had strong Blaine amendments have seen real school choice. We just need to enact it, and we need people who are savvy, who can work through policy, and who can figure out how to get this done for our students and our families. I got a solid plan on school choice, and we enact education savings accounts. We do those SGOs. We can do something here as long as we've got the know-how to do it.
Thank you. The next question, Candidate Johnson, you'll be first. This one is about accountability, funding, and transparency. Michigan's public, private, and homeschool pathways operate currently under different regulatory frameworks and levels of oversight. What principles do you think should guide the state's approach to accountability for student learning, funding, and transparency across those pathways?
we've seen before in previous governor administrations a check mark, a checkpoint. We need to see how our public school children are performing. They're not doing well now. Governor Snyder was criticized by the Democrats for having grades for the school, grades for administrative directives. These would work if they were implemented properly. Now for private and home schools, they're performing across the board quite well here. Parents seem to, the competitive market there seems to regulate itself. If a school's not doing well, the parents pull the child out and put them somewhere else or pull them into homeschool, etc. So the free market works real well there, but in our public schools, we really got to build this up. Right now, we're spending more administrative dollars on education than teaching, and that's upside down. We need more teachers. Thanks.
I don't want private schools or home schools regulated at all. The moment the government gets involved in it, they're going to make your kids dumber. Look what they've done with public education. Since the 1950s, we lost scores. What we need to do is hand public schools back to the school board where your family controls it, and the school board has the power once again. That's all we have to do, and it's that simple.
I think public school board of education need to be partisan. I think we need a bill of rights for our parents so that they can look into any curriculum that is going on within the schools. I think that we can ensure that they are welcome back into our public schools. I know when I had students in public school, I was not even allowed to enter the building. There is an absolute need to have parental involvement back into the public schools. Again, I would agree that any regulation of homeschool or private schooling needs to be untouched, but we need to ensure the grading system for a public school will be a wise thing as well.
In relation, have you got me? In relation to our public school budget, it's approximately $20 billion with a B, and we have seen our student numbers go down to 1.4 million. That means we've lost 180,000 students since 2007. And we've seen, in contrast, our number of employees, teachers, administrators, grow greatly over the last few years. We need to check out if there's waste, fraud, and abuse going on in our public school system.
I think we started with you, Candidate Johnson, so we're going to move to the next question, and the next question will begin with Candidate Norton. Schools today are serving not only as instructional centers, but also as providers of nutrition, mental health care, behavioral support, family services, and other services depending on the student needs. If Michigan is going to continue expecting schools to meet a full range of whole child and whole family needs, what supports, policy changes, or system shifts would you champion to make this sustainable for staff and districts and communities?
It's not sustainable. Government should never be the parent. We should be the parents, which means the control needs to go back to the parents. That's what needs to happen. What we have to do, no matter how we look at it, is to start at the school boards. Put that Constitution back in public schools so we have a basic framework. What's wrong with putting up 6 out of 10 of the 10 commandments? We don't have to place God in there, but thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet. There's plenty of those that actually work for society. The only way we're going to fix education is if we start fixing the basic values of our society. And anything else that the government throws at it is going to be an epic failure, period. That's why 100% school choice, where you can take your kids and send them to parochial school, private school, I don't care. We need to return it to the parents. Every single time the government takes more control, it fails, the scores drop, and kids are hurt. It's no longer a solution for the state. The only solution that's there is for us to retake control. And anybody who thinks it's a government solution is going to fail you.
I think we need to consider what the public school's intention is and get back to the core curriculum. So, statutory responsibilities. They should be in math, reading and writing, the basic essentials. And anything other than that needs to be thought through, and public involvement needs to be far more far more present at the school board meetings. I also think that with the school's overreach, if we back up for a second and take away some of the tax burden on parents so that they could have the resources to be able to help their own kids, that would be a wonderful.
So currently in Michigan, we rank 44th in literacy at the 3rd, 4th grade level. We have roughly only 39% of 4th graders and 28% of 8th graders who are proficient in math. We're in a hurting situation. Our schools are not mental institutions. Our schools are not our parents. Our schools are to be educational institutions. That first and foremost.
I couldn't agree more with everything that's been said here. We do have a cultural crisis on our hands, and our schools cannot be the center of everything. I've suggested to the Department of Education of Michigan, we have churches, sometimes right next door to the school, with mental health counselors called pastors and pastoral counselors. It's free. They're available. They're already counseling the families. Can we partner with this? We need a Republican governor and a Republican legislature to put something like that through. They said, Democrats, no way, we don't like that culture.
Thank you. Last education question, and we'll turn it over to Chairman Culp. Schools, Newaygo County schools spend far more per student on transportation than urban counterparts, leaving fewer dollars flowing to the classroom for learning. Given the very different cost structures between rural and urban districts, especially in transportation and access to services, how should the state account for those differences so students in all settings have similar learning opportunities with similar dollars for instruction?
I think that we could look at our millage rates for rural districts. So if there is anything that is encumbering parents to get them to schools, maybe we can make sure that the schools' millage rates are lower than those that have an urban core, just because the cost to parents is going to be a little bit more extreme.
Well, good luck with that, and voting in more millage is all I got to say. But in relation to transportation, I have driven almost every mile of this county and know exactly what you're talking about, as I've delivered Meals on Wheels. And I think that we've worked on this with fixing the darn roads. We need to fix the darn formulas that we use.
One of the toughest things in Lansing, we have brilliant ideas out here, and we can fix everything in this room in conversation, but in Lansing, we're dealing with Detroit Democrats who want all the money to go to Detroit. They have an urban mindset. It's all about the big city. We're left out. That is one of the toughest negotiation pieces for someone like us in the Senate to try to pull them back. And I did that with wastewater treatment plants in my district. It was miraculous. Thanks.
My mom's a retired school bus driver. The easiest way that we can actually help rural communities is by doing a basic tax credit on them, so they actually can get an additional write-off for public schools or an additional funding, a basic subsidy to pay and offset that gas so they can have the equal level of education, so it can be put back into the schools. Rural communities are tough, and the only way to do it is to reduce the fuel cost, because that's the #1 problem with running and operating a bus.
Okay. Hello? Thank you.
Charlie, let's remind the candidates to look at the white, yellow, and red cards. Then we don't have to shut off your mic. So if you stay focused out forward, you'll not have that problem. Thank you, Charlie. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine. So my portion of this is about local government, and so in continuing on with the rotation we have, I will begin with candidate Fox. The state took over control of the indigent defense program at the court, which has resulted in causing staff problems for the prosecutor's office, as well as funding for the prosecutor's office. Additionally, it has increased workload to court staff and judicial time without compensation. What is your proposal and process to correct this?
My immediate response is I don't have specific responses, but I do know that a big part of our jail population in Newaygo County is people who are served also by CMS, Community Mental Health, and we are dealing with not simply the crime issue, but we're dealing with mental health issues. And I think if we can start to address those stronger, that we will be able to focus on those things. Combined with that, we have a system set up where we as a county are paying for the health care of all of our prisoners. And that is something that I think government should take a better look at exactly who is paying for that health care.
We definitely need to look, again, at the funding and fairness. The rural districts are often left out. We have to sit at the table and make sure everyone's supported equally. It's ironic they talk about equity constantly coming out of Detroit, you know, big city mentality. And when it comes to the farming community, no go. They say, well, that doesn't count. There aren't that many people there. That's us. We got to have people at the table. And I'm on the Judiciary Committee, and that's what we.
I'm going to point out again, the Republican Party holds the House. This type of regulations was passed through the budget, and that had to have Republican support to happen. This is another point of when government overreaches and creates regulations in rural communities. It's the same type of thing that's struggling with local fire departments across the board. Not only the prosecutor's office, the prison systems, it's because the amount of state regulations that keep getting passed, and we have a Republican legislature in the House that doesn't want to fight Democrats tooth and nail.
Okay, there we go. I'm very familiar with this problem in Kent County. We have the same situation going on. No county should be receiving more funding for indigent defense than they are for prosecution. It's our job as a county to ensure that all of our laws are upheld. And so I would want to make sure that we are matching, at least matching the prosecutor's office than compared to the indigent defense. We have artificially created a incentive to be on the indigent defense side for our attorneys in the way that we've handled this. And we need to make sure that our prosecutor's office is fully funded.
Thank you. Then on to candidate Johnson. Unfunded state mandates are becoming more frequent, such as the recently mandated materials management plan, mandating that counties develop a plan for all or most of the household refuse being diverted from landfills. Newaygo County currently expenses approximately $250,000 annually for recycling and collection of household hazardous waste. This new mandate wants us to increase our diversion of waste, including additional recycling, starting composting and other things to provide that they are not providing any funding for. Eagle is supposed to be assisting creating this plan, but are not leading the charge. Asking them how this is supposed to be paid, they want us to just levy a millage. Our explanation that the citizens do not want another millage, and they tell us we're just not educated enough. Please explain your opinion on this and what you would propose to solve.
Unfunded mandates are a huge problem. I have introduced legislation to pull back Eagle from wielding that wielding these unfunded mandates against our farmers, our meat processors, and our businesses. You are absolutely right. We cannot afford their green energy mandates. By 2040, we're supposed to be just wind and solar. That's insanity. We need every form of energy, everything that's reliable and affordable. And they should not be dictating to us how to run a local community that has been functioning well for 100 years without these new regulations. The Marxist model is you centrally plan for Lansing, elections, fire departments, education, everything right from Lansing, and that's the mandates they want.
Again, I'm going to point to the budget, but there's an additional thing that could be done to actually help offset this. Most counties have landfills around the area. I know we got Pearson, which is outside of this county. It's in my county. We need to introduce legislation that lifts the regulations for these landfills that are producing methane gas to deliver electricity, and then allow part of that delivery to go to the local counties in order to pay and offset these types of recycling. And we can use our own trash to help power Michigan.
As far as unfunded mandates go, and concerning specifically the green energy that has the legislation that passed, we need to repeal that right away. That will help with a lot of the situations. Unfunded mandates, so I think we need more, stronger than just legislative approach. I think we need a constitutional amendment, and I think we could get there, even with a bipartisan legislature, to ensure that all funding follows every statutory responsibility.
I share the environmental concerns of many. I'm a composter, and I also am a recycler, without question, here in Newaygo County. I do stand strong against unfunded mandates, and in particular against DEGO. I do not call them EGO. They are unelected bureaucrats who are calling things laws, which are really regulations that they have made.
Okay, thank you. On to Candidate Norton. Local government is experiencing overregulation from state agencies that range from changing or increasing standards to increasing reporting necessities on grants and programs to multiple inspections on sites. This increased expense to municipalities using grants and programs as well as this increased expense causes difficulties with municipalities that are using the grants and programs, as well as needing more personnel hours just to manage the grants and programs. What do you propose to relieve these increases?
Number one, what I would like to do is take EGLE completely out of the state, Lansing, and hand it into the counties for regulations, and actually get rid of the actual department, transfer it back to a local DEQ where the counties have control of it. You hand it over to your local drain commissioner. That's where DEQ was originally exercised. That reduces costs across the board. You still leave enforcement in Lansing because local communities couldn't afford that burden for the enforcement, and you have those officers here. The other part that you're able to do for these townships is we have to give a waiver to rural communities, because right now, if you're a township supervisor, a firefighter, you know that these over-regulations are killing local townships. On the fire department side, on the budgeting sides, that's your number one cost in a local community. So what we need to do is allow waivers for these local townships so that they can use an older fire truck. There's nothing wrong with an old grass pumper or a truck as long as it can get there and put out the fire. Now for emergency medical, we're going to have to leave that to the local communities as well, but we have to use some common sense to fund townships.
I think we need to devolve a lot of services to counties. So anything that the state is holding against counties to prove compliance, that should first and foremost be a county level service. And the funding needs to follow that as well. So if counties are supposed to be doing specific audits or inspections, then we need to have that be within the county's jurisdiction and not the state's jurisdiction.
Lots can be said about overregulation. Just in relation to the fire trucks, that is not a regulation. It is only a recommendation. I've done the research on that in relation to the age of fire trucks. The reality is we have a lot of people in Lansing, especially in Deagle again, that do not care about people. They have supposedly 1,600 employees, and 300 of them last year were ghost employees.
Recently, I met again with the fire marshal for the state to try to get a carve out for our local communities that are smaller for some of these very unreasonable and especially MIOSHA regulations, so I agree with that. But also the House, in the midst of a Democrat Senate and governor, we were able to increase revenue sharing to every county and every city or village. I felt bad we left out the townships, but we increased revenue sharing this year for infrastructure and safety.
Thank you very much. Candidate DeBoer, Our residents see local control as very important to their community. We are seeing the state trying to take that over in Lansing with preempting the siting of solar, wind, and other energy uses already, and not wanting to mandate full control of building, and now wanting to mandate full control of building sites, setbacks, and property sizes for residential. What do you see that you can do to restore that local level of control?
Anything that has taken away a local's rights needs to be repealed. So all of the wind and solar initiatives and what we did with the data centers is just atrocious. And we have made them exempt from the 6% sales and use tax. So Michigan has become a hotspot now for data centers, and that's the state's fault. We need to make sure that we repeal all of these and that local control is returned to the local jurisdictions.
I totally stand for local control. I've fought hard for that, especially here locally in Garfield Township and against the solar fields that were planned there. And I want to highlight that the regulations are different, the laws are different in relation to solar and wind and data centers. We need to fight because the data centers are the next battleground. And we need to get rid of the Michigan Public Service Commission's power that they have, that throttle over our throats.
There have been specific farming communities that have contacted me while I've been in office, and they were going to have a new transmission line go right down the middle of their family farm. They've been in their family for generations. I met with the MPSC. I was able to successfully divert them to pick a different transmission line, but I wasn't successful with all of my requests. I'm completely in favor of restoring full local control, just like what was mentioned.
I would go through and try to repeal that, but in order to repeal it, you have to also do something to offset it. So all we need to do is pass some regulations to allow businesses like Walmart, Meijer, these big factories to put solar panels on top of their buildings, because there's regulations right now against that. So if we're going to help save farms and return local control, all we have to do is pass some select legislation to allow them to put on those buildings that are already developed, and guess what? We'll get our local control back.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox, the state has been working on trying to get some increase into the local or to law enforcement funding, but they always are focusing on either the large urban areas or cities, and they're specifically excluding counties from being involved in that. What can be done to make that more evenly distributed?
Yeah, and again, I hear what you're saying. It seems like there is a focus from the top on the Michigan State Police. And we need to, again, take a look at the formulas that are used and continue providing the funds. We are providing more funds in our next budget that just was presented to us the other day. And so those two areas, but I agree with you 100% that local sheriffs and in particular need the funding. It's our sheriffs who become our magistrates, those who stand between us and tyranny when all is said and done.
It's real easy for the unelected up here to pick on the Republicans in the House, saying we're not doing enough, but we actually did increase funding for safety and infrastructure. That, while pulling back $3 billion in the overall state budget, that's not been done before. In my lifetime, I don't remember the state budget going down while increasing money for safety, for law enforcement, and infrastructure. Successful, genius negotiations.
You know, in Lansing, they actually stopped the clock on the budget. This is another simple solution. The Republican House needs to make sure that they do not pass a single budget unless the dollar allotment is the exact same for every individual in the state. No extra money for a Detroit resident, no extra money for any other county in the state. If they can stop the clock for the budget, we can stop the clock until you're worth the same amount as somebody else on the other side of the state, period.
Okay, and Sheriff's Department for counties are primarily funded from general dollars. So I think anything that we can do to increase that general revenue. So revenue sharing with the state, there have been some proposals to increase law enforcement in that way, and I think that would be worthwhile to invest in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's my opportunity to ask you questions in relationship to cultural concerns, and I think we start with Gina. So when I think about you folks, and I'm sure many in our audience think this as well, to think that you would have so much territory to cover, as some of you have been representatives already, that's quite a span of people. But to even enlarge that, what I'm trying to say here is, though, recognizing the immense pressures that are upon you, time-wise, exercise-wise, spiritual, so forth, family, and so forth. My question for you here is, what do you do to be strengthened, mind, soul, and body? And in that regard, what do you look to in terms of news outlets to inform you, and otherwise, including spiritual things? We start with you.
Great question. One of the reasons we have Michigan Pray right down there in the Capitol is because we've got pastors on site almost every day that we're in session, and they're available for prayer, for counsel. We've pastors training pastors to go into the House and the Senate offices to be available for support, for wisdom, and for collaboration back to the communities. We all have staff. Our staff goes into the communities too, sometimes when we can't. And almost every evening, I'm back in the district. It's close enough to drive here. It's doable. And I'm not raising children anymore, so I have more time to devote to that. And I think the job warrants that. I read my Bible every day. Representative Fox and I pray weekly together and go to a Bible study down there that's a legislative Bible study, and we stay strengthened and pray for each other and encourage each other. And an encouraging atmosphere, even working across the aisle, is what works best.
I think all of us that are running are Christians, and there's no point of trying to out-Christian each other because we all have divine faith. I can tell you I found faith on the battlefield. But the only way you're going to know the district is if you're from it. I know Hesperia, Michigan, because my family founded it. They're buried in East Hesperia Cemetery. They're buried in Croton, is where my father's at. The general store down there is where he learned how not to steal. My great-granddad spanking. It worked. So if you're going to represent the district and know the culture, you have to know everything about it, including the fact that the last horseshoe building was my grandfather.
With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. So if we look at our Declaration of Independence, that's how we accomplish what we are to accomplish, with conviction and with a reliance on the protection of divine providence. So everything that I do in my life, I have a radical submission to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and that's how I have gotten through everything in my life.
This is a great question. So every day my wife and I put on our spiritual armor because we know we're going into a battle and we're fighting against evil. I say that I'm fighting like the third monkey on the ramp up to the ark. Okay? I regularly watch Flashpoint, the War Room, and the read the newsletter, which is a good normal thing to do. Thank you.
Sorry. Moving on to town, the question I have next is, recognizing that I listen to you, I don't see one of you necessarily facility and we discussed it with it. And I just would like to have you begin to answer that question for us. Well, number one, so how to deal with finance. So honestly, your value system, how you were raised, how you were brought up, the things they were taught, where is that reflecting on our families? How our families tell us what our families are values. So yes, they have values in Lansing. Some of them probably have already so valuable that we just don't know about it, quite frankly. My intent is to not do that by simply making sure that a lot of the amendments that I have are going to be a disability, so I don't necessarily even need the God. Massive pay cut. But I have to, I serve my country once, and I have problem doing these types of cuts in order to make sure that I can serve it. And I have things in place that make sure that I don't sell out. It's like, for instance, we don't sell out these bands, right? I was on the other day, I was walking to the real. The country is better way. At the end of the day, I want to grant money and rebuild them and hand those bands to the local community so you all them. And nobody can do this to us.
When I look at my life and the other things that I've had in my life, it is hard for me to see anything but God's intervention because I could have been someone incredibly different. I should not be sitting here in front of you today. So it is really hard for me to consider anything but God's intervention in my life.
And when it comes to rhinos, I often think immediately that what scares me more is what I call shinos, Christians in name only. People who do not depend upon the Word of God. I avoid the rhino influence by staying with my sister in Lansing. Her husband is a retired state policeman. I feel very safe there. I'm outside the swamp. I don't hang out at the lobbyist bars. I seek to do what is right and always take the next right step.
One thing I've noticed since I've been in Lansing is I've never been offered anything really tempting because they know, they review who we are before we get there. They don't come to me and offer crazy stuff. They know it's just, there's no go. And yeah, it's really important, more than anything, to get the right information before you make big decisions. That is the hardest thing in Lansing, to get all of the information. All of you guys, you're the experts. You are the experts in your field.
Thank you. Moving over to Katie then. This next question I have is probably the toughest one that I have here, but perhaps the most important as well because it's so important for the state of Michigan and truly for the country as well. It's something that I believe that the government has dodged over the years. But anyway, Tim Vetter, who's out of Oakland County, is a veteran digital process validation strategist working with a Fortune 500 company. In other words, he's an expert in digital process validation. Recently, Vetter has stated that the Democrats are going to win the upcoming election unless we're able to validate our vote counts at the state level and all levels. Vetter states unequivocally that there is manipulation of voting history records and vote counts within the tabulators, and unless we validate those ballots, the Democrats are going to win. Vetter states you have to have a second count of those paper ballots in all the ballots. And if we don't do validation in our upcoming election, the Democrats are going to win. And that our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, will then become our governor as the other members of the trifecta, Attorney General and Secretary of State. These thoughts have been hush-hush, but they are shared by many other leading experts in the field. People such as Fani Mantravati, Pat Kolbeck, the Michigan Fair Election Institute, just to name a few. The question is, where do you stand on this?
As far as election integrity goes, we need to remove no reason absentee ballots. We also need to disallow people from returning these ballots if they're outside of the household. I think that will do a lot to stop Democrats doing all this ballot harvesting. I also think we need better signature verification for those who do have absentee ballots. And with the absentee ballots, I think we need a better tracking system so that we actually know where they are at all times as well.
So this is the reason that I got into this business, was because of election integrity. I serve as the vice chair on our election integrity committee in the state, and I know Tim better. He's testified before our committee. I also know Pat Colbeck. He's endorsed me. And Lord willing, again, we're going to fight like that third monkey. And we're going to see the Dems defeated in this next election.
We need all hands on deck. This is going to be tough. We have citizens only voting plenty of signatures for that ballot initiative to be on the ballot, and people will vote yes. And Jocelyn Benson has it on her desk, and the Secretary of State is holding it up and stalling. We look at the Save America Act, look at the nonsense there, even with some of our own Republicans. All hands on deck. If we could get the Amish and all the Mennonites voting, we'd win every statewide election. Do what you can in your communities.
I believe in 100% voting ID. I also am the only candidate up here that's personally paid for recounts and be refunded money because clerks mishandle ballots. That's a thing. I can show you some receipts if you ever want to talk to me about it. So we need some legitimate election reform all the way around, and I think we need 100% hand counts like they do in France. They can do it at night, so why the heck can't we?
Next question is for Joseph Fox. Who is Abdul El-Sayed, and what concerns come to mind regarding him in worldview analysis? This question has been raised in light of Zohran Mamdani, newly elected mayor of New York City.
Who is Abdul El-Sayed? I think he's the Muslim Brotherhood person, if I've got it straight. And the Muslim Brotherhood are not brothers. Long story short, Islam is one of the greatest enemies that we have in our nation right now. And Islam is not truly a religion. It is indeed a political movement, a jihadist movement, a violent movement that would like to smash Christianity in all of its forms. And we need to, more than fight like that monkey, we need to fight like heaven against Islam and all that it stands for.
Abdul El-Sayed is running as the U.S. Senate, one of the U.S. Senate candidates on the Democrat ticket here in Michigan. He also ran for governor against Gretchen Whitmer. Because of Pat Colbeck exposing who he was and all his background and coming from New York, etc., Gretchen Whitmer went in the lead, which is still bad, but it's not as bad as a Muslim running the whole state. We have a dangerous situation here in the Senate. 2 Muslims are planning on running the Senate if the Democrats keep majority.
The only way we're going to stop radical Islam is by converting more people to Christianity. I had a soldier that served on me who was a Muslim. He goes to the Lutheran Church in Mount Pleasant now. His name was Elmar Al-Kamash. And he ended up marrying one of the other female engagement soldiers there. He thought my God was stronger than his God. And they said, we just worship God in a different way. And he ended up picking up a Bible and reading it. So if you're going to fight guys like this, you've got to go out to your communities and you have to sit there and show the compassion of Christ.
Redemption is possible for anyone. I just talked to a contact in Dearborn, and they have a record number of people converting to Christianity. I think also if we are looking into our candidates and they have any belief structure that is against our Constitution, either our federal or Michigan Constitution, they should not be allowed to run for office.
Let's see, Katie, I think you start the next round, right? That's correct. The number of state police troopers is vastly down from a fair number of years ago. Last night, driving on the S-curve in Grand Rapids, 2 vehicles passed by me going upwards of 95 miles per hour. Cars are seen weaving in and out, and often no state police to be seen. Why are the numbers of troopers down? Is that a problem? And explain. It's Gina. I'm sorry, Gina.
Huge problem. The department head for the Michigan State Police was a political pick by the governor. It was pick a minority and have our equity plan, DEI plan, promoted. He's done a horrible job. We've had him at the Oversight Committee, many Michigan State Police workers testify. It's a horrible environment. She will not pull him back and replace him with a different director. It's a huge problem. We've identified it, and this is why we need a Republican governor to work with a good legislature. We got to stop this nonsense. Department heads matter. Actually, the 18 departments run the state, many times more than the legislature. Dangerous. We need a new department head, we need a new culture, and we need courts that back up our law enforcement.
I agree on having a new department head. The other thing that you have to look at is, with the way the Democrats treat police officers in the cities, who'd want to be one? What we have to start doing is going out to our communities and make sure they know it's okay to be a cop. It's okay to do this. It's okay to enforce a law. And some of these kids are our kids and grandchildren. Part of that is, did we have conversations with them when they were younger about right and wrong, what values are? If we did that, they'd be like my 3 kids. All 3 of my kids went out and decided to get baptized because they were taught value systems. So the only way we're going to get more cops is teaching that.
We have primarily increased crime among our juveniles because we have done juvenile justice reform that has not included a broken windows policy. Everything that we do, we need to be earlier in that crime process. So what we did is we let off kids up to 18 without any prosecution. They're getting off, and what we see is we see older people, adults, who are just utilizing these kids, and they can continue to commit crimes and not face any prosecution. We need to reform all of this.
Yeah, in relation to state police troopers, since I hang out with my brother-in-law, almost every night I'm in Lansing. He's retired from the state police. He's just plain and simple says people don't want to be state police anymore. And the DEI stuff mentioned by Rep. Johnson is definitely a big part of it. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, is better spelled DIE, division, inequity, exclusion. And there's lots more that could be said about that.
Thank you. Am I on to Tom now? Okay, Tom, starting with you then. Much more is being said, of course, as we've even talked about here, about Islam in these days. Why are mosques important to Muslims and what takes place inside of a mosque?
In fighting in Afghanistan, it is very hard for me to bite my lip on my opinion of it, on Islam in general. The mosques are there, they're their churches, for a lot of them. Most people don't realize during the Crusades there was 2 branches, and they split off, and they actually hate each other. And the funny thing is that Muhammad thought that the Archangel Gabriel had come to him and spoke to him. He also sat there and he said, if I am a false prophet, this is right in the Quran, then I will die with my throat burning. Years later he died and he said, my throat is burning. Right in the Quran, he essentially declares himself a false prophet. These temples are their churches. The only way you're going to convert them is having a conversation and understand what they're reading in order to educate them on what's wrong with it. And then show them the differences with the history of the Bible and the well over 500 witnesses that saw Jesus resurrected from the dead.
Again, no one is beyond redemption, and I think as Christians it is our responsibility to share the gospel. And I think that is something that we can do with the Muslim population. As far as what's going on inside of these mosques, if there are any illegal activity, that needs to be investigated and that needs to be prosecuted.
Mosques, plain and simple, are indoctrination centers. The idea of coexisting is not something we can do based upon the teachings and the doctrines. The immigration that we have going on that leads to assimilation, without assimilation, leads to invasion. And we are being invaded and colonized in our nation. And our tolerance that often leads to affirmation and celebration, we need to smash that type of thinking.
It's interesting how President Trump, while he couldn't stop certain things, he negotiated with those that are at the table. I don't know whether you realize this or not, but there's quite a few Muslims in our state legislature, in our government. We can't just smash them. We can't just make it illegal. We're beyond that, guys. The reality is we need to negotiate while exposing whatever is evil going on there, and maybe send in a couple moles and figure it out. But we cannot do this blatantly and open.
Do I still have time? One more question? Okay, so I'm losing track when we're back to Katie again. Okay, good. Katie, here's a question for you, taking a little easier route this time. What do you consider the most important worldview concern in our state and nation?
We need a return to what is good and wholesome and right, and that is principally the Bible and Christianity. Our heritage is a Judeo-Christian nation, and we need a returning to our foundational principles. Government is a reflection of human nature, and when human nature is broken beyond repair, we need divine intervention. That worldview Madison talks about in Federalist 51. What is government but a reflection of human nature? And men are not angels. So we need to we need a spiritual revival, and it's coming. I feel it in my soul. It is coming, and I'm excited to see it. And that is what needs to happen for our state and for our country.
We need Jesus. Bottom line, we need Jesus. Barna has said that about Christian worldview that only 4% of the people in our nation currently possess a Christian worldview. We live in a hyper-offended culture that wants to cry out, God is love, love, love. But we need to remember the Bible says He's holy, holy, holy.
Fastest growing church in the world is where? Iran. Second fastest church growing is China. I don't want it to come to persecution here, but we got to get serious. When we have weak churches in any nation, we've seen it in Western Europe, that's when Islam comes in. That's when selfishness comes in. That's when suicide rates go up, depression, anxiety, and we see the fallout all across the culture. We need to return people to the church and help the pastors and priests know we got your back. Preach strong.
You know, faith without works is dead. It's in the Bible. The United States Constitution says we shall make no law establishing or abridging the freedom of religion or the free exercise thereof. I think God is strong enough that we don't need to regulate it. And if you think He's that weak, maybe you need to reread your Bible. I would never put forth any type of legislation regulating my faith. But I will go out and profess it, teach it, and I will sit there and show a compassionate hand. My grandmother used to say, if you have to sit there and dictate how good of a Christian you are, you're probably not very good at it.
Well, we're approaching the last phase. We're going to be talking about economy issues, affordability. We've all been through the last inflation, started by our president, President Trump, writing checks to everybody to stay home, followed by President Biden writing more checks for everybody to stay home. Became quite fashionable to collect money for nothing. That has created a real problem in our checkbooks, in our homes. There's no way businesses can understand how much to pay folks. It's a real problem. But that's your job to fix those problems and tell us how you're going to do it. So let's start with the easiest one. And who's next? Joseph? Let's start with the easiest problem. Joseph, property taxes are too high. At least that's what I hear. I hear property taxes are a burden on the people of the state of Michigan. I hear just about every candidate for Republican candidate for governor talking about how they're going to get rid of property taxes. Oh, I'd like my property taxes to go down too, Joseph, but I also wonder how I'm going to pay for my local government and how I'm going to pay for my local schools that some people still want to send their children to. Joseph, how am I going to do that?
Number one, I agree 100%. Property taxes are too high. I've supported the sentiment of X My Tax since it got started. It especially affects older adults who seem to never truly own their homes and end up paying again and again and again. How are we going to pay for it? We need to keep getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Our state budget has doubled over the last 20 years. It's gone up by 25-30% since Governor Whitmer got in charge. And if we could get rid of the ghost jobs simply, there are 3,606 of them currently that we had noted in our budget talk just 2 days ago. Just think of the millions, maybe billions of dollars that would quickly become available. Thank you.
Definitely, we have a property tax problem. We have a tax problem overall. I implemented or introduced 2 pieces of legislation. One to exempt capital gains tax when a farmer sells to a family member and it's going to stay a farm. The other one was a step down for seniors. We need to do this incrementally, carefully. The House is introducing 6 mil cut across the board, across the state, and then backfill it with some well thought out plans.
There's only 2 things sure in life, death and taxes, from Benjamin Franklin. We need fundamental, real tax reform. Fundamental. There is a way to get rid of property taxes and fund all those items, and it's impossible to cover it in 15 to 20 seconds. But what it has to do is to reform income taxes, sales taxes across the board. We're the number 7 in tourism. If we reformed our sales tax just a little bit, those tourists would offset your tax burden by roughly 31%, and then go through and cut government waste. But just getting rid of property taxes, it's $22 billion out of the budget. There's not that much waste.
We need to qualify the set, so state education tax, that needs to be considered exemption for those that don't have kids in the public schools, so including seniors. We also need to reconsider what an ISD is doing. I hear from a lot of public schools that their ISDs are not providing resources, so that needs to be clearly communicated to what their purpose is. We also need property tax exemption for the land on farms, so the principal residence would be fine, but exemption on the farm, and lower school millage rates.
You'll have a further advantage because we're going to drill down just a bit. So if we're reducing property taxes, you were all very good at that, and we're expanding, we're going to spend more money. Some of you are supporting the notion that we're going to cut checks to people who don't send their children to public schools. Well, how much are you really going to spend? Next, Gina.
If we reduce across the board 6 mills, we are looking at backfilling it with taxes on luxury services. It's still in the works, a lot of discussion there because we want to do it very carefully and not hurt tourism. I've always been supportive of increasing revenue sharing. When we find the fraud, waste, and abuse, I'm on the DOJ committee and it's glaringly obvious. We've got a couple departments, unfortunately, I hate to tell you, a lot like Minnesota, and there's not children in all the child care centers, but the funding's going. When you start looking at that, we could backfill it in just with the waste and the fraud. Recently, our Speaker of the House said he's found $5 billion more of the fraud, and we can use that.
There is no fundamental way that we're going to get rid of our property taxes 100% without real tax reform, period. End of story. We don't need to start just taxing luxury goods or anything of that nature. Michigan is number 7 in the country on tourism. If we sit there and just simply say, hey, if you're an out-of-state resident, we're going to put a sales tax on your HVC and groceries, then you could actually get rid of property taxes. That simple. And it's not going to hurt tourism that drastically because most of these people are from Chicago paying 10% sales taxes. For them, they're just going to look at it like, oh, okay.
most of your property tax is going to education. We currently have a $10,050 limit per pupil or amount allotment to the public schools. We also have free pre-K for all that the Whitmer administration enacted, and it's a higher per pupil rate. I would want to scale that back so that we have funding for lower property taxes.
Well, very simply, right now, we are proposing as Republicans in Lansing to go from an $82 billion budget to a $75.6 billion budget next year. And that's a lot of billions. And that's a lot of money that we can use to respond to the property tax. And we also need to take a look at what other states are doing and not reinvent the wheel.
Very good. Next question, Mr. Horn. Auto insurance. We're all paying a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
What is your plan to give relief, or what is your plan for coverage?
So, anybody ever drive through Wisconsin? They are number 7 on the lowest part for auto insurance in the country. They have something called fault, no fault combination. What fault, no fault is, if you get in a car accident, you're at fault, your insurance covers both sides. If you don't have, if that person doesn't have insurance, they're at fault, your insurance company covers you, and then your insurance company is legally allowed to go after the individual for the reimbursement. What we need to do is realize that we have 50 states in this country that have solutions. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just like Florida with the property taxes, that's exactly the plan that I was trying to mention in that short period of time. But with auto insurance, we need to look at places with identical type of weather, animals, deer, things of that nature. So if we're going to do that, we look to states like Wisconsin because they have very similar weather and pass that auto insurance reform so that we match it. That's going to reduce the rates drastically and take us from one of the highest in the country to one of the lowest. And it won't be overnight because insurance companies will lobby to stop it.
I do think we can rely on other states here. They have much better auto insurance programs than we do, and so we need to look at and see how they have done it effectively. I also think that we need to rely on those in the industry that have the expertise and try to glean from them to understand how to lower the rates.
And I've been to other states too. I lived in South Dakota, and there the car insurance rates were half of what they are here. So one thing we can do is we can allow our insurers to offer any dollar limit on PIP coverage, which will severely reduce our coverage. We can lower the bodily injury coverage. And I just signed on to 2 bills about this 2 days ago, put forth by Jennifer Warts, if you want to look them up.
How do we improve most of everything in America? We let the free market take more control of it. Competition will drive rates down. We have to be able to go across state lines. We need to open this up. It will also, it's very complicated in 30 seconds, but we got to look at the healthcare world too, that's integrated much of the time with the auto insurance rates. It can be done, but it's going to take the smart people at the table who really understand it. Thank you.
Katie, our community here is a community that has educated children very well through our public and our Christian and our home schools. But we exploit those children. They're gone. We're very good at exporting folks. We've lost most of many of our best students don't come back home to work. There isn't opportunities here. And so they seek the opportunities that their education provides. What do we do here at the far end of this new district to attract jobs and attract employers? Are there bad jobs that we should be vetoing? or should we be accepting?
I think we can incentivize quite a bit. We can look at opportunities for small business owners and farmers to have some capital investment to be able to start something. There are many opportunities with an entrepreneurial spirit. I think that we can try to, especially for rural communities, offer some grant opportunities or something along that line to increase employer presence.
Okay, since I have a red fox and socks in just about every school in Newaygo County, and I've been in government classes throughout Newaygo County, I will say, yes, we are doing a really good job of educating. And I think a lot of the good education happens about 50 yards from here in the Career Tech Center, where we're training, especially for skills of welding, carpentry, etc. We need to have a good workforce to attract continued good jobs and employers.
There's one factor that you look across the whole nation that improves people wanting to work in the state, wanting to stay there, and new businesses moving in. It's called right to work. When the Democrats took over, we lost it like that after working on it for almost 20 years. That is the number one thing. We have two powerful unions. They control a lot. When they're doing a good job, that's great, but they shouldn't control it all. Prevailing wage came back, that's another problem, and we have to repeal Earned Sick Time Act.
I agree with the right to work and prevailing wage. The other thing is Michigan is number 7 in the entire country for natural gas production. We are number 1 storage in the United States. What we need to do is reduce regulations because this is a farming community, and let's bring the fertilizers that are manufactured off natural gas right here to Newaygo County, and that's how we're going to keep some of these people here because that's the high-paying jobs that we've handed to the Muslim countries in the Middle East.
Next, I think we have Joseph. Joseph, electricity is more important, is suddenly a key item for family budgets. Electric rates are going up, and I hear from people throughout the county that it's becoming unaffordable. What is your plan for electrical power for the people of Newaygo County?
We need balance in our energy production. We have one of the largest supplies of natural gas in the nation in our state. We have oil. We have the potential of more nuclear. There are many things that we could do to provide power in this state. We need to attack the mentality of more regulations and more increased prices that keeps on going through the Michigan Public Service Commission. Consumers Power just recently got an increase, and then the next thing you know, they ask for another one. That should be unheard of. It should be limited. It was limited to one. It is limited to 1 year. It should be limited to only every 3 years at most for these electrical companies to push that. And again, I'm not a fan of the Michigan Public Service Commission. I'll leave it there.
We definitely need more oversight with the MPSC, Michigan Public Service Commission, but the first thing we need to do is repeal all these green scam mandates. We are not going to be wind and solar only by 2040. It's impossible. It's a joke, but it's the flow of money and they play games with it. We have to repeal that. We need every form of energy, natural gas, nuclear, everything that can be done, and open up the gates. And it totally depends on a Republican legislature and governor. We got to have it this November. I hope all hands are on deck.
One, hydro. That's like one of the number 1 things that powers our community. We need to rebuild the dams. We can increase power by roughly 40%, but if we're going to pay for it with grant money from the federal government, we hand it to you so you own it. That helps reduce the cost of electricity because that's our community and where we're from. We allow dumps to sit there and produce their methane gas into electricity. We already brought that up earlier. We allow more nuclear power plants, and they have miniature like chloride fusion systems that have also showed promise that are excessively small and clean.
Repeal the green energy. I think that is very important. We have artificially inflated the profitability for utility companies to do the wind and solar. That will help solve, I think, the free market will take control and will help solve some of that. I also think,
Well, my last question for you, and then we'll go to your parting comments. Gina, if there's one thing you could tell me tell us what we're supposed to do, what would that be?
Other than vote, we need your help to get the rest of people that think like we do, believe like we do, voting. There's 10X program, there's other programs, but everyone in your church is not voting. We look at the voter list, they're not. Your families, people that already respect you, know you, trust what you say, tell them, I'll help you do the research. Judges are really hard, oftentimes they're not partisan. For 20 years, I've been trying to get the church back engaged. That's what Michigan Pray is for. I hope you'll sign up so that you're intelligent when you tell your pastor, priest, did you know this is going on? Assisted suicide is on the docket if we don't get it back. Hate speech. We will lose school choice. Homeschooling in Christian schools across the board. The governor, when Whitmer took office, one of the first things she said was, I want only government schools. And she meant not even charter schools.
One of probably the number one things that I'm going to look at, and I'm going to tell people is, yeah, you need to vote. But we need to teach the value systems to our kids. That's why I'll put the Constitution back in public schools. But the number one thing for this community is going to making sure that we can maintain 3/4 of the economy, which is those dams. That's why it's become a big issue, because we're sitting right here in Newaygo County. So what we need to do overall is work together and vote. And yes, we need to work on prayer. Yes, we need to get people to vote. There is 90 million things, and the Democrats are attacking from every direction. So we have to take them all on.
What we need to do first is get our own house in order before we can rule a city. So that's just a phrase. We need to make sure that our own house, that your own life, first and foremost, is under submission to what is right and good. After we get through that, then we can make change, good change in our community. And that is what we need to do. Again, government is not going to solve our problems. God can solve our problems, and by His divine intervention.
I'll say amen to that. Government is a small g, God is a capital G. We need to pray. We need to bring people to Jesus. We need to grow up people in Jesus. And I agree with the others, we need to vote. And there's a wonderful system out there called 10X votes, that if you want to figure out how to influence people, look it up online.
Well, thank you. Thank you, candidates.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Patriot Paul. I hope you enjoyed the debate. The very end of the debate was cut off for the candidates' closing remarks due to a technical glitch with my system. I apologize to candidates for that. And down below, hit that like and subscribe button. And in the comment section, let me know who you would vote for from what you just heard. Or if you have followed this race and you already knew before today and no candidate changed your mind, let me know who you plan to vote for. Thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Thank you to the Newaygo County Republican Party for hosting the event and allowing me to come and record.